Let's talk about defensive organization. How to get in and out of a huddle, how to line up over the team, how to talk to your players so that they understand where they are on the field and what their jobs are. The first thing I do when talking to or setting up a defense is I tell them that I like to number the defensive backs from left to right. We are looking at this field from the defensive perspective. Here's the offensive receivers and the center snapping to a quarterback. Here's the rusher. Here's your 6 DBs, offense trying to go this way. So left to right, from the defensive perspective, here's the 1 DB, here's the 2 DB, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6. So 1 and 6 are on the outside, 2 and 5 the next in, 3 and 4 in the middle. This helps a lot because when huddling, I try to get them to line up in exactly the same relationship for the huddle. And this way, when you're subbing people in, if you're telling the person go in as a 1 DB, a corner, they know that to come in and stand here in the huddle. They also know that this is their neighbor, someone that they're going to end up lining up beside, and who to talk to if they're not understanding the defense. So this 1 to 6 really helps them line up in the huddle, get in and out, helps substitutions a lot as well. So out they go then to the formation, and here they are lined up. Now, at this point, I also talk to them about how I also give their position a name. The 1 and 6 DBs are cornerbacks. And this is sort of more traditional for how you would talk about a defense in terms of the name of their position. 2 and 5 are safeties. And 3 and 4 are middies. These are common names. You can have any name you want for them, but these are common in touch football, tackle football for how we name defensive backs. All right. So at this point, we've got names and numbers for them, and at this point, the next thing we would like to talk to you about is depth, because how far from the line of scrimmage that you line up can be important on defense, and it's important to be able to communicate that quickly. So I like to have a depth where I tell them to be aggressive, line up at 5 yards. I might call this for the Bell Warriors blue or bell. 7.5 is probably my most common depth, depending on the team, of course, but 7.5 might be warrior or gold. 10-yard depth in more situations where you want to be safe might be very helpful as well. I might call this prevent. There are times when you might want to line up at 15 or farther, but I treat that as a special case and I just tell them to get even further back. Again, lots of ways to communicate depth, but it is a part of defense that can vary during a game and you want to be able to quickly communicate that. All right. This next part to me is the most important. How to line up over a defense. Over an offense. So lots of different formations in an offense, and what I tell them is that the cornerback on the left side always lines up on the first receiver from his or her sideline. All right, so here's their sideline, first receiver, line up, second receiver from their sideline, line up, third receiver from their sideline, line up. We go over to this side. The cornerback, or number 6 DB, lines up on the first receiver from their sideline, second receiver from their sideline, third receiver from their sideline. This is important because these DBs can get a little bit confused with the presence of a rusher. When they first start playing, the rusher will line up over the quarterback, and this DB will often think that this is a defensive back and start moving all over, not knowing where to line up. So they need to be told again that the rusher has the quarterback, and these two in particular, sometimes the safeties need to know that they might be lining up beside a rusher in terms of getting into that proper alignment. All right. So the main thing I do is I just practice this idea of lining up over 1, 2, or 3 from your sideline. And so this starts very early in the season where I'll have a drill where I'll line up an offense and I will simply tell offensive receivers to move around. I'll tell these two, a little space here, to come over and line up here. And we simply follow our rules. Line up first from your sideline, second from your sideline, third from your sideline. On this side over here, we've got a rusher, first from your sideline, second from your sideline, third. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I will tell people to motion all over the place, and you simply have to line up over the correct person. This can be a nice 5-minute drill. I have everybody on both sides of the ball take a turn on defense, because you never know who's going to have to play defense or offense during a game with injuries, who's there that day. So this, we practice from day one how to line up over them. So again, lots of practice. All right, lots of practice. Other teams will move. Let me just get this one finished up here. So there's a formation. Could be really a crazy formation. Right? Other teams, and you can do this if you'd like, I find it can lead to more confusion, but let's say we're in this formation. Other teams will say that if this person goes, this person will line up. This is in general indicative of more of a man-to-man defense, and it's definitely an option. I find getting the zones, getting in the zones, learning how to line up, limit the gains to short gains is very helpful. Now, of course, the problem with this will be when you have that one great receiver and you're having trouble because maybe you don't have a matchup. Maybe it's just not a good matchup the way it's done. In general, I'll try and handle that great receiver with a good zone around that person. So I still like the just this 1, 2, 3 way of lining up, and we handle those great receivers with more of an overall team concept than just perhaps worrying about the matchup. But this idea of following receivers around is also used a lot. In fact, as you get to the higher levels, sometimes you'll set up your defense with matchups. I want this person to line up over this person, and away you go. So we'll talk about that more in strategy. Now, having said that, there's one other key thing to talk about. Well, actually kind of two things, what we just did here. But I just went over a concept of how we line up 1, 2, 3. The problem is motion, which I sort of showed here, but let's be a little bit clearer now about what's happening. So when I go over this next comment is what I call bump. And this idea is that if this person goes in motion, and this person has to line up over the number one receiver from their left side, as they go in motion, this person is lining up over them. But as they pass a receiver, this DB bumps the next DB over so that we can have that 1, 2, 3 idea still being incorporated. Right? So this is bumping. This person continues on, they bump the next DB. So when I see motion, I'll be yelling, teammates will be yelling, bump, 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 bump. And this is the idea of bumping a DB over to the person that they should be lining up over. Now the other thing, we'll go more to a more traditional set here. The other thing that's really important in lining up is a halfback. And so if this person is back here, potential handoff for the quarterback or a throw, and they can still throw it, it's important to realize that I always have the kids treat this person as a receiver. There's one quarterback, the rusher has the quarterback. This person counts. So sometimes this DB might think they have to come line up over here, and then this DB is over here, and it's getting kind of confusing. But it's important to realize that this is a DB, and this is a receiver, and we have a DB lineup over every receiver. All right? Of course, this receiver can run a pattern this way, can catch a pass. We have to be aware of this receiver, and the number one way we show we're aware of a receiver is we line somebody up over them. All right? Again, this person goes in motion over here, bump, bump, bump. 1, 2, 3, wherever they go. So they motion over here, we'd end up with this, just like this. Sometimes you'll see them stack like this, no problem. Just bracket, two DBs pretty close together, bracketing, 2 receivers, 2 DBs, we're in good shape offensively. We're in good shape defensively. So, now, the last piece of the puzzle is some crazy formations where team offenses can set you up for an awful lot of empty space that a receiver can run to or a quarterback can run to. So what happens here is sometimes you'll see a formation like this where it's overload. Probably the more common one is this right here. And so again, we can practice this 5-10 minutes at a time in a practice how to line up. But the classic play here is if we can get everybody over here, this receiver has an awful lot of space where if they can catch a pass, it can be hard for this person to tag them. Likewise, this receiver runs this way, pulls this person over. This quarterback can run and have an awful lot of space. So whenever we have one receiver sets to one side of the center or zero, we have something called shift. And this is our way of protecting the empty space. So here we've bumped over and we need a couple of defensive captains or somebody, maybe the coach from the sidelines, shift, shift, shift. And we always shift to the dangerous side of where there's lots of space. So we would shift here, 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 and here. You'll talk to your team about how much of a shift you need. Could be a step or two. It could be even more. It's important to realize that this person is still lined up over this person, but shifted. Lined up over this person, but shifted. It's important we always are aware of where the receivers are. So what this is doing, it's giving us a little bit of an advantage to controlling this space, because this is a dangerous space with all this open area. Now you might think, well, we're leaving, easy out patterns to the left. And that's kind of true. If you did have a nice overload play here with some outs, they would have a bit of an advantage. But the main thing here is this is often a long throw. It's now a crowded throw. All right, even though they have a bit of an outside advantage, we have 3 or 4 DBs out here. We can create lots of traffic. We're doing our job on defense if we're making them throw to the wide, crowded side of the defense. All right, so if we go even farther here, this is a classic one. All right, where we'll just get back away from the shift for a moment. Here we are, we've lined up. A fast quarterback, all right, gets around there and they've got a lot of green space to run to. All right, first of all, we'd probably have the rusher line up over here as well, but let's shift. This was the formation where I'll have a more pronounced shift, maybe 3 steps. Now in Bell we play a lot of zone, so this isn't a big worry for me here. And if we were in man, then if these all ran clears and this person ran an out, it could be trouble with the shift that we're in. But we do a lot of zone, and teams generally it's pretty hard to force a team to man right now. That would mean just a lot of repeated success. So this shift right now is taking away the most dangerous aspects of this formation, and that is, this receiver clearing and this one coming out here. This person's waiting out here a little bit. Quarterback running. This person's got that advantage. So bump and shift are the 2 other things we practice a lot. That shift is going to take some practice. All right, the players will have a good amount of trouble with just really keeping track of who they're supposed to line up over. That's that 1, 2, 3 concept. And then, but as they get going, as that gets repeated, that we have to shift to the dangerous open area, they get better and better at it. And often halfway through the season, they're excellent at it. And you've really given your defense a chance of taking away the easy gains from the offense and really make that offense work.